Hey, my name is Brent here on Cloudy with the Chance of Meeples. Welcome to another episode of Ideas, a time where we sit down with designers, illustrators, and publishers in the board gaming hobby and find out how they got their ideas from just being ideas to the games that fill our shelves and fill up our tables and every other shelf in our houses, it seems at times. And I firmly believe that community is built on conversation. Much like idea, our games are built on ideas, and that's why ideas exists. And today we have a publisher, Jason Schneider from Happy Camper Games. How's it going, Jason?
Great. Thanks for having me. Appreciate being here.
Oh, well, you know, it's the pleasure's all mine. I just love talking about games. And that's what we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about Happy Camper, the games that you're putting out and what you've done in the board gaming hobby with designing and developing and all that stuff. But before we get to that, we got to talk about how you got into this hobby that we share. I want to hear your origin story, your gaming backstory. I call it whatever you refer to it as. Like, what did gaming look like for you growing up? What got you into board gaming?
Boy, how much time do we have? Well, I know exactly how much time we have. I would say that I don't want to say that I fell into this industry. Games have always been a part of my life since I can, early remember them as a young kid,
Mm-hmm.
whether it was at my grandparents' house playing card games, like learning to play games like Slapjack or Gin Rummy, or even like learning how to do solitaire, sitting on the couch with them. There would always be a deck of cards played. Or at my house, I'm a child of the 70s and 80s, so there were lots of, classic games that were there, whether it was Battleship or and you name of the classics, they were all in our house. I remember being very, very young and playing the Uncle Wiggily game or Payday. I mean, these really, super traditional family roll and move games.
Mm-hmm.
But somehow they always were involved and involved in our family. We also loved playing party games, early ones of the sort, whether it was like an early version of Pictionary or Trivial
Mm-hmm.
Pursuit, or we would always get, I subscribed to Games Magazine, and Games Magazine is this big, maybe some of your viewers know it. It's the kind of it was a seminal magazine in the 80s
Okay.
and 90s to a bit, where they always published like a Games 100 every Christmas season, holiday season of the
Mm.
best games that came out.
Mm-hmm.
This was before there were websites like Board Game Geek or aggregators like yourself who would, just choose what the best games were. And there'd always be different categories, and we'd always like run and grab whatever that best one was there. I remember an early party game called Oodles that was a lot of fun,
Oodles.
or
Okay.
Mind Trap, one of the
Mm.
early sort of like puzzly games to figuring out. So those were things that were always part of my house, along with a lot of traditional games. Games like Rummy Cube were big, chess and checkers, of course, and a lot of outdoor play too, a lot of outdoor
Mm.
games. We had I lived on a cul-de-sac, so there was always a game going on, and that kind of, parlayed itself into the different kinds of play, whether it was imaginative play, going into the world of like role playing. I was a not I tried Dungeons and Dragons, but I
Okay.
kind of fell more in love with of another game that TSR put at the time called Top Secret, which was an
Okay.
espionage themed
Hmm.
RPG, which I think is probably still around, but I do remember many, many hours role playing as if I was some kind of international spy
Nice.
roaming around the world and trying to take out others. So that was all there. I did not really think of gaming as a career or board gaming as a career. As a matter of
Mm-hmm.
fact, after I graduated from college, I went to work in the realm of television. I was what's called a child talent coordinator on a show you might know called Sesame Street. It was my
Mm.
first job out of college, and it was kind of an amazing experience to be working on the Sesame Street, to be
Wow.
there at 1, 2, 3 with all the Muppets. Big Bird, Oscar, Elmo, Grover, my favorite, of course, Bert and Ernie. And After working there for a few years, I decided that, well, my girlfriend at the time, who is now my wife, was living up in the Boston area, and she wasn't so keen about moving to New York, which is where I was located. So I moved up to Boston, and I got a job working in the child, the basically the WGBH's child
Okay.
television department. Again, and
Mm.
WGBH is also another big producer of public television for children. There was a reboot of a classic 70s TV show called Zoom, which some of your fans may know about, but
Mm.
it was
Zoom.
this game, it was this TV show that was kind of improvisational in nature. Kids would submit ideas for activities, whether it was a cooking activity or a craft activity or even a play. And then on the camera, they would have these kids do and act out all these things.
Hmm.
And so it was sort of like early crowdsourcing. It
Right.
was, ahead of its time in many ways. But in the late 90s, when I went there, they were rebooting Zoom for a new generation. And so I
Okay.
got a job working on that group. And little did I know that in the Zoom zone, which is the place that all the kids would hang out when they weren't on set, there were a bunch of games by this upstart game
Really?
company named GameRight,
Really?
based out of Massachusetts.
Right.
And there were games such as Rat-a-Tat-Cat and Frog Juice and Slamwich. And though their favorite was one that was called Horse Show, where you were just, competing horses. So I played the games with the kids, and I looked in the
Hmm.
back and I noticed that they were local to the Boston area. And I've always been, like I said, games have been a part of my life in some way or another. And I was looking to make a job transition, so I wrote to the company there. And it wasn't immediate, but several months later, I got a call from the new owners of the company because I didn't realize that GameRight was being sold. The
Okay.
new owner of the company and the people that were there, so they were looking for someone to kind of step in marketing and sales role. And this was going all the way back to the year 2000, if we can go back that far. Um, so yeah, basically 25 years ago, I got my first job working in the board game business. I left public television to work for a game company. I started off in marketing and sales, and then over time, just kind of worked my way up the ranks till I became basically the lead developer and spokesperson and the manager of the brand. And that takes us all the way to 2023. Before then, the company that had bought GameRight was themselves bought out by
Hmm.
a private equity-backed competitor, and things got a little bit rocky. And then in 2023, they decided to be done with me. I'll say it
No.
politely.
Mm.
My role was made redundant, and I was let go. It was a gutting blow. As you can imagine, I was there for almost 23 years, basically
Mm.
a month shy of 23 years. And so GameRight had been my identity. I mean, you think about almost half my professional life, I was
Right.
developing games, and probably with the exception of the few games that I mentioned early on, I developed almost every single one of GameRight's games, whether it's Sushi Go, Forbidden Island, Roy's Story Cubes, Quicks, Outfox,
Mm.
Dragonwood. I mean, the list can go on, but I mean, I worked on over 200 games in my tenure there. So, it became really who very much I became that person.
Hmm.
And then as a result of being laid off, I took some time off to decompress. I mean, 23 years is a long time to be at a
Yeah.
single organization.
Hmm.
I decided that I would explore some other opportunities, but kind of came back to like games or making games is one of the reasons that I'm on this planet, is to bring joy to families, to bring people together. So
Hmm.
in the summer of 2023, I made the bold decision to just start up my own company called Happy Camper.
Mm.
And started with my first release, a game called Trio, which I know a lot of your viewers have played and watched, and I'm
Hmm.
grateful for that. And then I've kind of continued that path onwards, just carrying on this spiritual successor to GameRight and bringing out really fun, easy to teach, easy to play family games. So that's kind of a long-winded,
Hmm.
more long-winded, I didn't want to say, story of how I got to where we are very much today.
No, that's fantastic. That's amazing. So, you know what? You said you worked, I'm just going to go back a little bit. You said you worked on
Yeah,
Sesame Street,
sure.
and it's actually really
Yeah.
cool because um with the power of YouTube, I was just like a week and a half ago showing my kids some of these sketches that I watched with the little Martians and the yip 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 yip,
Oh, yep, yep,
and they
yep,
were
yep,
just
yep, yep,
howling,
yep, yep.
and
Yep.
they were just absolutely howling, and they're like, "Dad, another one, Dad, another one." So I think that's really cool. Like I have fond memories of watching Sesame Street growing up, and
Totally. And
it's
I think it really helped to pave the path for me, both at GameRight and where I am now, in the power of families
mm,
learning and being entertained together. So not
mm,
just making something that only the kids are going to watch, not making something that just the adults are going to care about, but really finding that intersection that hits on both levels. And
mm-hmm,
I'll be the first person to tell you, it's a really tough challenge because usually the things that the kids love, the adults don't care about, and vice versa. And so to
mm-hmm,
find that middle ground, that's something that kind of both people at the table or both people watching the show can really find something that they can enjoy.
Hmm.
It takes a lot of effort, but the payoff is immense just
Right.
because you've got that shared experience. You've got this sense of connection that this generational connection, intergenerational connection.
Hmm.
And those are just amazing moments that I think anybody in their family will look back at and going, remember we did that as a group or
Mm.
as a family? So yeah.
Hmm. One of the questions that I wrote down is, what do you think? And maybe you just answered this question. What do you think you learned the most? Like, what you learned from your time at Sesame Street that you were able to directly bring into your work as like a developer? Like,
Sure.
is there anything that you can
Well,
kind of like pinpoint? If not, maybe not.
definitely the intergenerational part of it. That's
Mm,
a big part of it. And I think the other is just the creative process in general, like seeing how the sauce gets made behind the scenes. We
mm,
all take for granted what you see on TV or when you look at a game, but the immense amount of work of a team of people that come together to each contribute their own part to bring it to the screen in the case of a show like Sesame
mm,
Street, or to your table like a game. You've got so many aspects of it, whether it's someone who's really great at illustration or someone who's great at doing the visuals, someone who's great at pulling it all together and getting the production moving. I mean, it's really a team effort, and it really requires special people to kind of be able to work together, to collaborate, to check their egos,
mm.
right? I mean, when you're in any creative environment, you've got a lot of strong opinions. And so to have people kind of come together and feel like they're making something that's greater than them, it's a really amazing journey
Hmm.
that they all, like, at the end of the day, feel proud of.
Right. You made mention that your girlfriend at the time and then your wife. Um, did you raise your kids? And if you don't have kids, my apologies in thing saying or yeah, just assuming you do. But did you play games as a family with you and your wife and if kids if you have?
Absolutely. It was kind of a prerequisite for to being in a relationship with me and then also to growing up in our family. Two things,
Hmm.
playing games, and then I have a circus background, so learning how to juggle was
Okay.
also a big thing too. So anybody, like my wife learned how to juggle, my kids learned how to juggle. Of course, they don't like I think same thing with games, like they didn't pick up the passion as deeply,
Mm,
although my kids really do love games and they'll always indulge me in playing a game. I think that they have taken the DNA that I've given them in what a
hmm,
game is, and that's very much related to the kind of games that I enjoy playing, which are lighter, I would say, but
hmm,
also full of interesting moves and dimensions. I don't think they would relish, and I should say, quite honestly, I look at at your shelf of all the games you've got on your shelf. Most of the games that I see on your shelf are not games that I would find myself
mm,
playing because I tend to find and play games that interest my tastes, which tend to go to more of the social, lighter, family integrated
right.
element of them. So, and my kids are the same way. I really
Hmm,
think they enjoy playing party games. They enjoy some strategy, but more like they love playing trio, right? It's just
hmm,
it fits that niche of great game, lots to chew on here, but also and doesn't take you a long time to learn it or play it.
hmm. Man, that's fantastic. I love hearing that, and I love hearing that the games that I have on my shelf don't necessarily speak to you, and that's like what speaks. Like I lost my train of thought. No, I've lost the formula formation of my words there. Sorry. The amazing thing about this hobby is there are so many games, and there's pretty much something out there for any type of gamer that
100%.
whatever their interests are, um, you name it, you think about it, there's probably a game that can relate to virtually everybody.
Yeah, I think you're right on about that point. And the thing that I would say further about that is that we, as people who are really knee deep in the hobby, or
Hmm.
even further than knee deep, need to be aware of that at all times, that there are people out there who have no idea what Board
Mm,
Game Geek is, what the hotness is, what the latest game is. They just want a fun game to play with their family, regardless of theme, regardless of whether or not it's got the buzz or the cool mechanism, the hot, shiny, the hot shiny object of the moment.
yeah.
That most people just enjoy playing games with their family. And part of my mission with Happy Camper is to really broaden that base, is to really give the people out there who may not know anything about playing games except for what they themselves played as young kids, which is probably pretty homogenous given the publishers that are around back in the day,
Hmm.
that there's a beautiful and large and vast number of games out there that don't have to be complex, don't have to be complicated, just have to be fun and engaging and take people away from their ordinary lives to a place that could be extraordinary with the experience they have at the table.
Hmm. So you mentioned Happy Camper, and before we get into that, I want to talk a little bit about your time with Game Right, being sensitive to the way that ended. And
Sure.
what would you say? You said almost 200 games you helped develop and work through. Are there like one or two that kind of stand out in the sense of maybe not because of the sales and like the accolades and the awards that it won, but maybe something that when it was in the creative process or something that you were just like exceptionally proud of, even though maybe it didn't get the fame of some of the other games that Game Right pushed out.
Sure. I can give many examples of that. I'll home in on two of them. One is a really fun and innovative outdoor game called Bucci,
Okay,
which you'll have to go look it up. But it was a twist on, because of the name, the classic game of bocce,
Bocce.
but with this really wacky twist to it. Each player was given kind of a bean bag and then
Okay.
a ring. And then in addition to that, everybody had a scorekeeper on their hand. And like in
Hmm.
bocce, there's a Polino, there's the mark that you throw out at a distance, then you have to get your objects closest to it.
Yeah.
Well, in Bucci, it was actually a D12, a
Okay.
giant foam D12 with some writing on it, and you would toss that out, and that D12 would give bonus points at the end of the round for sometimes being closest to it or furthest away from it,
Hmm.
or if both objects were there. So everybody would take their turns tossing their objects as close they can, or maybe not so, to
Right.
the Bucci ball, as it's called. And then you would keep track of your score on your wrist tracker,
Hmm.
which the first person to get to 11 would win the game. But the wrist tracker also gave you a throwing challenge every time you upped your score. So after
Hmm.
your first throw, you may have to throw behind your back using your worst hand with
Oh,
your eyes closed, lying
okay.
down. And so it set up immediately a fun dynamic. And I remember the pitch for it, where I was sold at the very beginning, but I had to then go try to sell this to the owner of the company. We were having a company picnic one spring afternoon, and I brought the prototype out with to everybody to play after they had served us the picnic lunch, and we were just having an absolute hoot playing it. And it became the first game that really broke out of our typical like indoor play
Hmm.
uh, over a table experience, and got lots of accolades. The sales were actually decent for what they were because it was a quite expensive item for Game
Right.
Right. It was like a $40 game, but everybody who played it loved it. And I think if you go look up some reviews of it, Bucci, you'll see some people who really, want it back in print.
Hmm.
Um, and then the other game that I'll talk about is also one that's not super traditional, but one that I was really proud of, is a game that we published called Sneaky Cards.
Hmm.
Now, this is an item that I had seen in a Reddit forum, and I reached out to the people who were controlling the forum, the moderators, about
Hmm.
it. It was a really innovative product where it wasn't about playing a game at a table. It wasn't even about playing a game in a room. It was about playing a game out in the world. You had a deck of cards, each with different challenges on it.
Okay.
And the challenges were to do wacky things, good things for people, some things for yourself. And every time you finish that challenge, your end goal was to pass that card along to somebody else and then have them do it. And so if you were the first person to kind of get rid of their deck of cards, wins the game. And I thought
Hmm.
the premise of it was really great, just because again, it really blew open this idea of what a game could be. And then also just the interactivity of it, the general kindness that was behind it. There's a whole like
Hmm.
category of things like hold the door open for 12 people, then give the card to the 12th person that passes through the door, or buy coffee for the person standing behind you in line at the coffee shop, or things like that I thought were really fun. We took it up a notch by adding in interactive element related to location. Every card had a unique serial number on it, which I'd never done before. And
Right.
you could log the serial number on a website and you could track the card as it traveled around the world. And it's kind
Wow.
of a really cool way to see how it all blossomed. The idea was fantastic when it first was like released. It got a ton of buzz. It was picked up by some early sites that they're even no longer around, like Upworthy. These are websites that at the time
Mhm.
were like aggregating cool stuff on the internet. And I would say that that was a game that was ahead of its time
Hmm.
because I think had it been around now in the era of TikTok, it really could have had a chance to really show itself off for the
Hmm.
incredible connector that it was. But yeah, those are two unique products that are not some of the smash hits that
Yeah,
we
yeah.
built at Gamewright, but also ones that I feel like when I talk about games that I really had a great experience with, they stand strongly.
That's cool. It sounds like kind of like a geocache type of thing.
There was a little bit of geocaching or letterboxing to it, right? Where you
Right.
really had to like, you leave some of the cards were like, leave this hidden in a museum somewhere for someone to find, right? So you had little challenges for yourself where you had to like put it somewhere. And then when someone gets it, it would say at the bottom of the card, like, if you find this card, please track it. And then you can stay connected with it because you'd register your whole deck at the time. It really, it was a lot of work to put it all together, but certainly very memorable.
Wow. Speaking of memorable, that's what you're trying to do now, Happy Camper Games. You mentioned
Yeah.
that a couple years ago. You started that kind of in a disappointing season in your life, but you're trying to turn that around and build off of that. And you mentioned Trio. I know you guys have Combo, which was Surface Horse Max, which I absolutely love Combo. And
Thank you.
um, what else? What's happening next with Happy Camper?
Well, let's put the tariff issue aside because right now we're all dealing with this
Right.
crazy moment where a lot of us are having to put projects on pause. I'm trying not to do that, both
Okay.
because I'm so young as a company and I need to, continue to deliver product to the customers. But also, I just don't want to be stopped by the macro situation that's going
Hmm.
on in the United States. So I'm on I would say that with Gamewright, I would publish somewhere between 8 to 10 new titles a year.
Okay.
And while that did yield out over the course of 20 plus years, like I said, making over 200 games, at moments I felt like we were making too many. And I will
Mm.
say that in general, I think that our industry is making too many. We just don't have the bandwidth for most people. Again, when I cut out the 1% of big gamers who follow the industry deeply, most people just don't have the bookshelf that you've got behind you of dozens and dozens or hundreds of games.
I don't even.
So
I would say my shelf looks bigger than it is. It's actually only a 4x4 calyx, which is fine. But I'm just saying.
but
But I
you've got
do
an
agree.
insight,
I do
right?
agree.
So you've got a very big. So I'm with Happy Camper. My goal is to maybe release 2 or 3 games a year, maybe on an extreme year, maybe four, but
Hmm.
games that I could really vouch for and that I can say like will stand the test of time. They may
Hmm.
not all be commercial successes. I may get another Sneaky Cards or Bucci on my hands, who knows? But I
Yeah.
think they're games that at least I could feel proud of making. And when people play them, they could be like, oh, I could see why this game got made. And it certainly it deserves a place on my shelf or somewhere in my house. So I will this year, fingers crossed. So I've got the 2 games, Combo and Trio, that released. I released another game called One Too Many Rabbits, which is a really delightful family game. It's
Hmm.
for ages 7 and up. And it's a twist on the classic game of Shut the Box, if some of your
Okay.
viewers know that classic play pattern. In this game, you've got a hand of cards numbered 1 through 12, and your job very simply is to be the player to play all your number cards.
Mm.
How you do that is by rolling dice. You'll match up the dice to the cards in your hand. And if you can play them all out by matching them up and you're the first person out, then you win the game.
Okay.
There's a lot of fun twists in it. It's got really adorable artwork, hilarious artwork actually, with the inventor of the game, who's based up in the northwest of the United States, did all the illustrations for them, and they're
Hmm.
really quite hilarious. And I could see that game being a real family favorite for those who love simple games with familiar twists to it.
Mm.
And then as the year progresses,
Yep.
the next up that I'll fingers crossed I'll be exhibiting at Gen Con
Hmm.
in August, and I'll have another game there, and that's a game that I collaborated on with Matt Leacock,
Hmm.
who many of you know from
Pandemic.
the Pandemic series, from
Forbidden.
the games
Forbidden
that I
Island.
did with him, Forbidden series.
Hmm.
And so this is a game that is close in the idea. It's a cooperative game, but it's a game that you're going to play in a very small setting, meaning that you can take it with you wherever you go. And it's called The Four Doors. Oops, and it's upside
Hmm.
down.
Four
Um,
doors.
and so this is a close to finished production copy of it. It is a game for 1 to 5 players, ages 10 and up. And it is a game where you're going to be working as a bunch of adventurers and you're going to be building out this light tower. And you're going to be moving up and down these 4 doors and trying to grab these relics needed to light up the beacon at the light tower.
Hmm.
Meanwhile, you're going to be pummeled on both sides of the tower by these evil characters called the Shadow Veil. And if you can get the Shadow Veil away and get the relics you need and get up to the beacon and light it, you will win the game. But the Shadow
Mm.
Veil are going to be pretty relentless in trying to kind of come on both sides and close these doors off. And if they do shut the doors before you get the relics, then they win the game. So it's portable. As you can see, this is a game that
Yeah.
fits in my hand here. I could throw it in a backpack, and it's only pretty much a deck of cards and some pawns. And so you're really going to be able to have a wonderful cooperative game experience in a very small profile. So this will be a game that, fingers crossed, will be out at Gen Con. That's the intention. That's what I'm going to be pushing for. And I think that people who are fans of Matt Leacock's style of games are going to really relish this play pattern.
It kind of do the vibes and the artwork a little bit even kind of remind me of Forbidden Island. Would that be accurate in that ish?
It's a different illustrator, different artist, different
But kind of
feel,
like,
but yeah, it's got a little bit of that world in it. It's this really goes more fantasy adventure.
okay,
Forbidden Island was more like it's got a helicopter. These are more kind of in your like these are all wizard characters of
okay,
sorts
yeah,
in
yeah.
this, and these Shadow Veil characters are again fantasy made up, but it definitely has this interesting again the co-op vibe to it very much jives with what the kind of stuff that Matt does. So it's people who've been playing it and testing it and loving it. So we'll keep our fingers crossed that the wider population feels the same way about it.
I'm like stoked. I want to play that like right now.
Yeah,
Because
awesome.
I absolutely love Forbidden Island. It's one of the first games that got me and my wife into the hobby, and then been able to, play with our kids ages 11 and 9, and so
Wow.
or just about 9. And so I absolutely love Forbidden Island, and so I'm excited for that one. I As we wrap up, we just got a few minutes left. I
Yeah,
I
sure.
I really want to touch on something you do at Happy Camper. I want to highlight how you give back, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah,
Just a couple minutes. What's your whole like
sure.
mission with Happy
Yep.
Camper, going further than just a table at a home or any of
Yeah. I think sort of inspired or I'll say inspired by my experience vis-a-vis private equity. I wanted to do something that in the world of knowing that we're all in the capitalist society that gave back a little bit more
mm,
to people and not just to profits and banks. And so Happy Camper has a mission to well, the mission is to really bring families together over games and other face-to-face play. But built into that mission is a deep love for camp and particularly summer camp. One of
mm,
the things I didn't say in my nascent years is that I really start to love games when I was at summer camp, whether it was on rainy days playing with campers or just even like, camp games that were being brought out at the time. And so when I was kind of formulating what I was going to do next, the name Happy Camper popped into my brain, and it just felt like it was the right mission for me and for what I was doing, not only in terms of like, trying to make myself a more happy camper,
right.
but
Hmm.
also to like pay back the years that I had grown up and had formed who I was and my identity. So anytime someone buys a Happy Camper game or product or whatever it's going to be, I'm going to donate proceeds to scholarships so that more kids can go experience summer camp. It's just a summer camp is the place where I think a lot of people find out who they are. It's that unstructured
Mm.
time. It's, you don't have the pressure of school. You can be around other kids and really learn to thrive in a collegial environment. And so the more people that I get to camp, the better. And if I can play a small role in that through my efforts of Happy Camper, I'll feel like I've, made my contribution.
That's amazing. Our daughter's going to camp this summer for the first time, and our son for the second time. And my wife and I actually,
Incredible.
we met at Bible camp. That's where we met, and we were working at the camp.
I love
And
it.
long story short, she said yes, and here we are, almost 15 years married, and so yeah, we have fond memories of camp as well. And so that's amazing. I love it. I love
That's
hearing that.
so great. It's, I think, yeah, you speak to you really, speak to the power of camp.
Mm,
And if I can just, again, tap into a little bit of that and get more people to have those experiences, then I'll feel like part of my mission in life is complete.
right on. Well, let's leave it there. If anybody wants to know more about Happy Camper, the games, trio, combo, anything else, the rabbit one, sorry, I forgot the name.
One too many rabbits.
One too
Yep.
many
Trio, no,
rabbits.
no ways.
If someone wants to know more about the games that are already out or Four Doors that is coming out, where can they find you online?
Yep. The quickest place would be happycamper.games. That's the
Okay.
domain. It's happycamper.games. Or I'm on pretty much every single social at happycamper.games, all one word. Those
Okay.
would be the best places to find me.
Perfect. I will put that information in the description of this video, so folks can just click the link and hop on over to your website and check out the wonderful games that you're creating, and hopefully will create for many, many more years to come.
Oh, thank you.
And this has been fantastic, Jason. I really I'm really thankful that we are able to set up a time to chat, and I love hearing your passion and just your excitement to bring families together. And part of the reason I game is to do that as well. We live in such a technological age, you know. I think some of that is being lost with families
Definitely.
and communities in general. You know, there's something to be said about that interaction, face to face, same room, whatever it is, right? And so I
100%.
I believe games do that in such a meaningful and great way. And so this has
Couldn't have
been
said it better myself, Brent.
oh,
That's really well said.
well, you probably could have. You're a little bit more eloquent in your words than I am, but
No, you
that's
knocked
all
that one
right.
out of the park. I would say take that, write that down, put it on a bumper sticker somewhere. But
That'd be a very
I'm
long
with you.
bumper
I'm on the
sticker.
same page.
Right on. Well, thanks so much. Like I said at the beginning, I firmly believe that community is built on conversation, much like games are built on ideas. And so, thank you so much, Jason. Until
Thank you,
next
Brent.
time, my name is Brent. Grab your umbrella. The forecast is cloudy with a chance of meeples.